Sonia?
Yes.
Ready?
Okay. I called, or I sent a text to see if we could do something about the air. I don't know why it's blowing so loud, but we can start and see if there's something wrong with it or if it's just set too low. But anyway, we could start when you're ready.
All right. Okay, I'd like to start tonight with welcoming Ralph Bias. He's been involved in many businesses and real estate throughout the area. We want to welcome him to our board. And at that, we will go ahead and start. This is a duly advertised meeting of the Joliet Zoning Board of Appeals. In our capacity, we hear petitions for variance from the strict provisions of our city ordinance. In matters of this type, the decision of the board is final in respect that it does not go to the mayor or the city council for further action. However, if you disagree with our decision, you have recourse in the court of record. We also hear petitions for variations of land use. In matters of this type, we act as an advisory committee to the mayor and city council, making a recommendation either for or against it. The final decision of land use is made by the mayor and the city council. You can go ahead and call the board.
Mr. Bias?
Present.
Mr. Alessio?
Here.
Mr. McShane?
Here.
Mr. Noctree?
Here.
Mr. Riggs?
Here.
Ms. Rohr? Here. Mr. Hennessy?
Okay, first order of duty would be approval of minutes from the September 21st meeting.
Motion to be in order for the minutes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Alessio?
I abstain, it was not here.
Mr. McShane?
Aye.
Mr. Noctree?
Aye.
Mr. Riggs?
Aye.
Ms. Rohr? Aye. Mr. Bias?
Aye. Abstain. You abstain? You weren't here. Okay.
Next order of business would be citizens to be heard on agenda items. Anybody that's here in attendance can speak on an agenda item now, but we do allow you to speak when the case is called, but if anybody would like to speak at this time, they can. Seeing none, we could move on to old business, public hearing. The first case we have is petition number 2023-50 and 2023-54. The applicant is Americo Real Estate Company, AREC. Status of the applicant is a contract purchaser. The owner of the property is PM Hospitality, LLC. The location of this site is 4200 West Jefferson Street. Requests being asked for are special use permits for indoor storage, special use permit for truck hire and sales, variations for 2 main structures on 1 lot, variation to increase the sign of signage, and also variation to increase the total amount of wall signage. Under purpose, again, the petitioner is requesting approval of these following items with intent to develop a U-Haul moving and storage facility at the subject property. A special use permit again for the indoor storage, special use permit for truck hire and sales, variation to allow 2 main buildings on 1 lot, variation to increase the total permitted sign height from 25 feet to 39.56 feet, variation to increase the total amount of allowable wall signage from 785 square feet to 801 square feet. The special use permits require city council approval, but the zoning board will make the final decision on these variance requests. Under furthermore, a narrative of the proposed project written by the petitioner has been included in the staff report packet. The U-Haul moving and storage facility would consist of self-storage truck and trailer sharing and related retail sales. Indoor storage facilities within a B3 zone require a special use permit per section 47-13.2AI of the city's zoning ordinance. In addition, truck hire and sales rental in this case also requires special use permit under section 4713-2AG of the city zoning ordinance. Proposed development would contain two main buildings, which will both conduct the proposed principal use on the same lot, thereby requiring a variation from section 47-3.2B of the city zoning ordinance. Additional variations are pertaining to overall sign height and size for signage along the eastern building's west facade. Under site-specific information, the subject properties total approximately 7.47 acres in size, contains two lots. The properties currently contain a hotel use with a bar and adjacent parking. Development of the proposed U-Haul facility would result in a complete teardown of the hotel building with two main buildings that would be located on the western lot. The two existing access points onto Jefferson Street would remain in place, in addition to an existing cross-access lane to the Shell gas station to the west. The easternmost building would have a footprint of 39,038 square feet and contain a three-story, 42-foot tall building that would include self-storage and retail within a showroom. The B3 zone allows buildings up to 3 stories or 50 feet in height. Second building would be 49 feet tall, have a footprint of approximately 27,451 square feet, and be located on the west side of the property. This building would be used mostly for storage of moving containers or pods. Elevations of the proposed buildings have been included in the staff report packet. The easternmost building would contain a variety of brick, precast concrete, and glass facades. The entirety of the first story is shown with a brick exterior, in addition to the second and third stories on all 4 corners. The western building would contain a similar design with less glass. Both buildings will be required to meet the city's non-residential design standards for commercial use. Some signage is currently proposed within the top portion of the west side elevation on the east building. Wall signage has a maximum height of 25 feet per the zoning ordinance. Requested signage, as shown in the attached elevations, would be approximately 39.56 feet high, thereby requiring a variation for the proposed height of signage. In addition, total wall signage along the west side of the eastern building is estimated to be approximately 801 square feet. Wall signage in the underlying zoning allows for 200% of maximum street frontage, which in this case would allow for signage up to 784 square feet. Subject signage area will be located over 200 feet from the West Jefferson Street right-of-way. Staff views both requested variations as reasonable requests. Much of the project site is in the 100-year floodplain. The petitioner has secured a letter of map revision from the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, to remove a portion of the property where most redevelopment would occur from the special flood hazard area or floodplain X-shaded zone. Development on the subject properties that is still located within the flood fringe will still be required to abide by the city's regulations pertaining to development in special flood hazard areas within the flood fringe. Petitioner has also submitted a preliminary landscape and tree removal plan. Plan shows removal of a considerable number of trees which will need to be replaced per the city's tree preservation regulations, Article 6, Section 26, 128H of the city code. Prior to issuance of the building permit, staff will need to review a more detailed tree preservation plan that specifically states how each tree is proposed to be removed, relocated, replaced, preserved at its present location, introduced in the site from an off-site source, and whether the tree is to receive remediated actions due to construction impacts. Under surrounding zoning land use and character, to the north is B3 Woodlands, to the east is I-1 Woodlands, to the south is RB Woodlands, and to the west is B3 Woodlands and Gas Station. Under applicable regulations, Section 4713.2A, G, and I, special uses general business districts, 47.5.2C, criteria for issuance of a special use permit. You could see the attached. On 47-3.2B, basic types of buildings and uses, main building. 4717.213R, regulations to govern in all zoning districts, Exhibit A on sign size and height. And lastly, 47-19.8, criteria for granting a variation, and you could refer to the attachment for that also. Under special information, the subject petitions were originally scheduled to be discussed at the August 17th, 2023 Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. These petitions were tabled to October 19th, 2023 to allow for a revised set of studies from the Federal Aviation Administration, the FAA, regarding the proposed height of the two buildings and their proximity to the flight path of the Joliet Regional Airport. Findings from the FAA have been included in the staff report packet. All reports have determined that the proposed structures will not exceed obstruction standards and would not be a hazard to air navigation, provided that a notice of construction is filed with the FAA within 5 days after building construction reaches its greatest height. Under discussion, approval of the requested petitions would allow the development of a U-Haul moving and storage facility on the subject properties. The proposed development is viewed by staff as a positive commercial reuse of a site that will benefit from access to West Jefferson Street and I-55 adjacency. Staff does not believe the proposed use will generate enough traffic to necessitate a separate traffic study and will therefore not provide a noticeable increase in traffic congestion in the immediate area. While the site plan as currently proposed would eliminate several trees along the west and south sides of the site, a dense woodland buffer would remain around the south, east, and west sides of the site. These woodland buffers will help screen the interior parking areas from these perspectives in addition to most of the three-story building. Under conditions, if the zoning board desires to approve the special use permits, staff recommends the following conditions be included. One, that both main buildings follow the city's non-residential design standards for commercial buildings. Two, that all internal parking areas and driveways are paved with concrete, bituminous concrete, or other approved surfaces, according to section 4717.17J and other applicable ordinances. 3, city staff approval of a lighting plan prior to issuance of a general building permit. 4, city staff approval of a final landscape plan prior to issuance of the building permit. 5, city staff approval of a tree preservation plan as per code. Should the property be declared a public nuisance, it shall be subject to a rehearing and a possible revocation of the special use permits. And lastly, that if a building permit or activity is not initiated within 180 days, it can be subject to a rehearing and possible revocation. And that concludes our staff report.
Is the petitioner present? Will all three of you be talking?
Possibly, depending on your questions.
Raise your right hand. We need to swear you in. Do you swear your statements to be true? Go ahead and read each one of your names and off for the record.
My name is Michael Cook with Cook Engineering Group.
I'm Angela Farley. I'm the marketing company president for U-Haul.
And I'm Rick Rottweiler. I'm a district vice president for the area for U-Haul.
Do you have any questions for the board?
We do not, in support with Jim's thorough report. We're obviously in concurrence with what was presented by staff at the city, and we're here to answer any questions that any of the board members have regarding our project.
Any questions for the board? Anyone wish to speak in favor or against? Ma'am, you can come up. You in favor or against?
Against.
Go ahead.
My name is Jennifer McFarland. I'm the airport superintendent for the Joliet Regional Airport owned by the Joliet Park District. I am here today just to let you know a little bit about the airport. The airport is home to over 71 aircraft. We have over 30,000 operations a year. Recreational flyers, student pilots, as well as business charters fly into our city on a daily basis. The airport is also a historical landmark. It was built in 1930. I'm here to request your careful consideration to the airport concerning the items on the agenda today regarding this U-Haul facility. Any type of construction or alteration of objects on or around the airport can have an adverse impact on our operations. Construction of objects could result in an increase to approach minimums to the runways. The location of constructed objects may impact runway protection zones, safety areas, object-free areas, and obstacle-free zones. The one in particular, the runway protection zone, which currently goes over the proposed property, is there to provide a safe and clear space for aircraft takeoffs and approaches, and to protect the people and property on the ground. The primary goal is to clear the RPZ areas of incompatible objects and activities, and to ensure that this area remains clear of such objects and activities. The shape and size of this area is dictated by studies of historical data to determine the area of highest probability of accidents. This area is not dictated by height. Airports that have received federal funds are obligated by grant assurance to identify and mitigate hazards to navigable airspace at our airport. I believe the new structures on the property will have a negative impact on operations for the foreseeable future of the airport and the economic impact for the city. I'm simply here trying to protect the approach and the property around the airport. We want to prevent any type of loss of existing approaches and other negative impacts affecting the use of our airport, and I hope that you will too. Thank you for your time.
Okay, is there any height restrictions in that area that you know of, Jim?
They met all FAA requirements. They came back with a letter, and it's included in your information that there was no obstructions.
That is correct, but I also do want to note that on those FAA determinations, that there is an advisory recommendation, and that is for the airport owners and our community and our local governments to adhere to.
Will you be getting any high antennas or anything on top of your building?
No.
There'll be nothing on top of the building. Everything that
Okay.
we submitted to the FAA was in very detail. Not only were the centers of those buildings identified, but also the four corners of each of the buildings identified. It was all formatted, submitted to the FAA, and they all obviously concurred with what we were providing them. So, I mean, we have the documentation that was included as part of the staff.
Anyone else opposing or against it?
Do you mind if I ask the question?
Yep.
My question is in your statement, you specifically said that it's not only height requirements that the FFA or FAA is, considering or considered to be a problem when making these decisions. Can you give me some examples? I'm not a pilot. I don't own an airport, never worked at one. Can you give an example of what hazards or issues you mean other than height?
Anytime there's a large congregation of people, that would be a hazard at the end of a runway. So of course, when the aircraft are taking off, you've got that ascent that they're going up. When they're coming in for their landings, they're going down, so they're going lower and lower across that property. Our duty is to respect that area and to make sure that there aren't any hazards. If the weather is bad or you have a pilot that is having trouble, getting his plane in on the ground, or that's one that's taking off as well, he may not be able to get that lift in enough time to get over that structure.
Okay. Do you know what, historically, and you may not have been here at the time, but I mean, there technically was a gas station that was at the end of the runway. And were you
Correct.
guys in opposition to that at that time?
That was put in kind of unbeknownst to us at the time. That is my information that I have on it. I was not at the airport when that happened. It is currently empty.
Yeah.
So there's
Any
no
other
one there at the
questions for
time.
the board?
Yeah, I actually do have a few. I'm not exactly familiar. I know there's several buildings that are at least a decent height with the hotel on McDonald. And then the buildings across the street on Airport Drive. I see that they're positioned a little bit different on the runway, but I'm wondering why those are okay. Is this gonna be significantly higher? Or what's?
No, it's more based upon a 20-to-1 approach. So as the aircraft depart, They're going up, so that, it's hard for me to explain, but there's like a trapezoid that kind of goes out from the end of the runway. And for every so many feet that you have on the ground, the aircraft has so many feet to get higher up and away from it. So the ones that you're questioning about on, further down, behind the McDonald's there, right? Those are not in question. There's enough height clearance for those. It is just this one that is strictly closer to the airport. It's basically, you know, right behind that gas
Direction of the
station.
runway?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Have there been, in your time there, any incidents over the area that's now being considered for reconstruction that caused damage or might have caused damage?
I have seen several aircraft that have departed, that have not been able to get the lift that they needed until they were actually further away from the airport. I have witnessed also aircraft that have not been able to stop in the allotted time, that have actually gone over into the gas station property. So I've seen it from both angles, from a landing and to a departing instance.
Will this affect types of aircraft that you could possibly be getting in and out of the airport?
Absolutely. Mhm. It could displace our threshold markers on our runway, which means they're taking away usable landing area. And by doing that, insurance companies won't insure larger aircraft to come into our airport. So we would be losing revenue and usage of our airport.
How often do you have larger planes come in there?
It varies. You know, it's all, a lot of it, it's more recreational flyers. We do have some business aircraft that come in. You know, we could see a couple of them a month, a couple of them a week. It all depends.
In order to have a larger aircraft, wouldn't you need a longer runway?
Yes. For some, yes. Not all.
The runway going south, there is trees there. They're not a hazard?
Trees are always a hazard. We are currently in the process of removing trees and topping trees to be compliant with those grant assurances. We just finished up a project on the corner of Hobart and McDonough, where we removed all the trees on that corner property, and we're in negotiations with the property to the south of us to have access to their property to top those trees.
And I do have a few friends that have flown out of there that never mentioned that they had an obstruction problem.
Trees are always an issue. It's going to be an ongoing issue for any airport if you have any forestation around it, which obviously we do.
Okay, petitioners, have you got any response to what you've heard so far?
Other than the information that we supplied to the FAA, we did make adjustment heights based on their requirements that they provided to us. The trees that are out there actually are probably taller than our building is to begin with. So if there was any tree issues that need to be trimmed, those have never been trimmed in the time that we've been at least involved with the project. As it relates to occupancy and people that are out there, the place that's there right now is a hotel. What we're doing is obviously very limited in individual and people that will be there versus what was out there with a bar and a restaurant right now. The number of occupants that will be on this site will be significantly less than it would be if the current use that's out there right now. So, Rick, do you have any other thing to add?
I mean, I'd just like to add, although you do have the information, we were required to submit all four corners of each building to the FAA as well as the center of each building, and we've complied with their recommendations as far as getting to this point, so.
Will you be, were you required by FAA, or would you put lighting on the tops of the building so that they're visible to pilots after dark?
Nothing was brought up at this point, but of course we'll follow anything that is required, certainly.
Okay, at that, if there's no other comments, we'll close the petition and ask for a motion. Need a motion to either deny or accept. We need the board here to make a motion, one way or the other.
Can I make a motion?
To approve, yes.
I'll make a
Approve or
motion
deny?
to deny.
We have a motion to deny, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second to deny, call the roll.
Mr. Bias,
I don't
The
hear.
motion is to deny.
No, I don't wanna deny, no.
Mr. Lucio,
Aye.
Mr. McShane,
Aye.
Mr. Noctre,
Aye.
Ms. Rohr,
Aye.
Mr. Riggs.
No.
4 to
yes.
2 in favor to deny. So those variations for signage, those are final. Recommendation to deny will go to the city council for the special use permits. Second meeting in November, whatever that date is. So anybody interested in that, that would be when it was scheduled for, but check our agendas to make sure that it's continuing. Next case is 2023-62. The applicant is NP Compass Buildings 4 LLC. Status of the applicant is contract purchaser. The owner is TCIH Land Holdings LLC. Location is proposed Lot 1 of South Chicago Logistics Subdivision, and a series of variations are the request. Under purpose, the requested variations are to allow trailers and wheeled containers to park on the short ends of the structure in a double deep configuration perpendicular to both axes of the structure.
I think you skipped one. This is tabled.
Oh, sorry.
We can go back to 40, Jim, after this one if you'd like.
I don't know if I have that one. Somebody have that case that they get to me. I'll continue with this 2023-62. We'll come back to 2023-40. Let's see, under purpose, the requested variations are to allow trailers and wheeled containers to park on the short ends of the structure in a double deep configuration perpendicular to both axes of the structure. An additional variation is being requested to allow the use of non-standard wall materials on the building's exterior siding. The subject petition is a part of companion series of petitions that will be heard by the Plan Commission that would allow for development of a 589,388 square foot cold storage building with accessory trailer and wheeled container parking. Under site-specific information, a site plan of the future facility has been included in the staff report packet. The subject property is approximately 49.932 acres and is zoned I-1 light industrial. Proposed double deep parking would be located north of the main building, parallel to the building, and in the southwest portion of the proposed Lot 1, perpendicular to the western face, short end of the main building. Each row of truck parking would be separated by a drive aisle. Site would have a total of 376 trailer parking stalls, with 195 stalls being in the remote southwest portion of Lot 1. The other 181 trailer stalls would be located north of the main building. All trucking operations would enter and exit the site from the future extension of Compass Boulevard to the north of the main building. Surrounding zoning, land use, and character. To the north is I-1 and undeveloped or being developed. To the east is County A1 undeveloped farmland and rural residents. To the south is County A1 and I-1 undeveloped farmland and rural residences. To the west is County A1 and ITC undeveloped farmland. Under applicable regulations, section 4719.8, criteria for granting a variation, you could refer to the attachment. Under section 4717.17 and 29, off-street parking regulations, and section 4715H.4B, non-residential design standards, industrial. Under discussion, section 4717.17 of the city zoning ordinance prohibits double deep parking of semi-trailers. Because the proposed trailer parking is not arrayed in a single row, it is considered double deep. Site constraints due to pre-existing housing to the south of the proposed cold storage building and a future detention basin to the west of the building create the need for remote trailer and container parking in the southwest portion of the proposed Lot 1. The petitioner has stated that the volume of trailer parking stalls requested 376 stalls is a result of market conditions that necessitate increased capacity for on-site trailer storage to provide faster delivery to consumers. An architectural planning set has been included in the staff report packet, which shows the proposed wall materials that would be used on the building's 4 exterior walls. Section 47-15H.4B of the city zoning ordinance requires front facades and exterior walls of industrial structures to be constructed with quality masonry materials, including but not limited to precast concrete panels. Proposed elevations show a combination of concrete wall panels and Kynar-coated insulated vertical metal panels on the building's west elevation, with metal panels predominantly shown on the building's east, north, and south elevations. Petitioner has stated that standard wall materials do not provide the necessary amount of insulation that is needed for cold storage. Under conditions, we have none, and that concludes our staff report.
Petitioner here.
Good
Swear
afternoon.
you in. You swear your statement to be true?
I do, thank
Your
you.
name and address?
Tom Osterberger, 111 North Ottawa Street. I'm one of the attorneys for the applicant. I think we have an engineer here, if you have any questions, along with a representative of the owner. With respect to the buildings variance, I think the city periodically grants the variances. I think in most, if not all, the cold storage facilities they did on the IKEA building. So it's a little bit of a specialty. The ordinance, the way the ordinance reads, you need a variance if you're gonna do anything at all that's not straight masonry. With respect to the parking, as you can see in Jim's report, the layout of the property is quite strange. We're gonna be in front of Plan Commission in a couple hours to bring in a couple of parcels to square it up, but that south end is really kind of up against the tracks and goes to a narrow configuration. So, and then also a little bit of extra parking in the double stacking so that we can make sure that there's no problem operating the facility. Obviously, the food and cold storage facilities are important for our area, and we're hoping that it'll be successful and never have to come back to ask for any expansion for parking. So.
Okay, any other questions for the board? Okay, does
For-
anyone on the
from-
board have a,
Yeah,
go ahead.
okay. Yes, I have a question, although you as the attorney may not be able to answer this.
Sure.
Except I just forgot what it is. Oh, yes, the plot shows no housing around the area, but the report that Jim read said there's housing to the south.
Yes, so if you look, the blue configuration would be this lot. That is Bush Road going north-south and Noel going east-west, if I don't have, yeah, that's correct. So you can see the houses further south, quite a ways away, certainly from the building, but close to the parking there to the east. There will be a berm, as is currently around the rest of the subdivision, along with fencing.
Okay, it's hard to see on that, but it looks like there's some possible housing or residential lots.
Only that one or two to the east, which are A1 with two, I think there are 2 homes there.
Do you know how much noise is generated by a cold storage facility?
So the studies that the applicant has made show that there will be no noise problem there, and the variance itself down to the south is only parking, which I don't expect to generate any noise.
Thank you.
Sure.
To your knowledge, has anybody else objected?
This is the first time we're up, and normally Jim would report if there's written objections. I don't think we have any.
I don't know if we had any on this. If we did, we would have forwarded. We got some objections on some other cases, I think, that were forwarded.
Okay, carry on. Is there anyone opposed to this? Anyone for it? Come on up, sir.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
My name is John Erickson from the area. The representative said that this area in question isn't far from the residential subdivision that's right there. Can you tell me approximately how many feet up, away this is from the subdivision?
Mr. Esper, you can answer that.
Do you mean the last house or?
Yeah, so you,
From the subdivision that we can see in there, can you tell me how many feet that parcel is?
well, the
From
very,
the subdivision.
the very south corner will hit is kitty corner from across the street from that lot in the southeast,
From
right,
the,
as you see it there?
from the center of the property gonna be developed. From the center, how far in feet is away from the subdivision?
I don't know the distance from the center, I don't think we have,
Couple
without
hundred
measuring that.
feet?
Well, it says 600 feet public notification boundary is that purple. So I think you can kind of estimate that that purple is 600 feet from the blue line. Would that be right,
From
Jim?
the edge of the property, correct?
Yeah, that is correct.
So does that help answer
Yeah, I mean,
how
if you
far?
visually went to the middle of the property, the 600 feet would come just about to that corner. But with respect to the edge, which will be bermed and fenced and landscaped, you know, it's across the street, right at that kitty corner.
Yeah, so
Yeah, that's-
600 feet, I don't know what you consider not close, but 600 feet, and you said there wouldn't be any noise,
So the way the building is configured, everything goes to the north. We're here for the variance, obviously, for the materials,
For the
which you're not.
parking.
And the parking, right, and the parking is down to the southwest.
and the trucks will be coming in and out of there.
So the trucks are gonna go to the far side around the building, and down.
So we shouldn't hear the trucks in that neighborhood then?
Well, I don't know where you are. Currently to the east, there is, obviously industrial warehouse. So this parcel here with the parking, you know, I don't expect you're gonna have an issue with noise on a parking lot the way you would on, you know, some kind of cross terminal or something like that.
Okay, and then just one other question.
Yeah.
What do you mean by the double stacking?
Double stacking just means back to
Oh, back
back,
and
not
forth, not
vertical.
high.
Yeah, there's no
That's
vertical
my only
stacking.
question. Thank you.
Okay. Hey, you get your name and.
Ron Adamski, kind of brought up a question for me when the truck routes. Can you explain exactly what roads and the truck routes for us?
So the property.
Could you go
is-
back to the map?
If you see there, though, the trucks are gonna come from the northwest.
On 53 initially?
No trucks are allowed onto 53. It will come out of Millsdale. It'll stay within the park. It has to stay, obviously, it cannot access either Knoll or Bush. There will be no access, either truck or vehicles, personal vehicles onto Bush or Noel. So the trucks come from the north, just like they do now. This will be a partial resub of what's there. So the truck patterns are within and north of, will not go south and exterior by agreement with the city.
Okay, I think it was you that said that, the boulevard, what's the boulevard called again?
Is it Compass?
Compass
Main
Boulevard. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was it? Okay,
Compass.
well, you
Compass.
said that, that's the way they'll be coming on that boulevard.
That is how they access down. In
Okay.
Jim's report, it was correct. They access down, and you can see to the north, there'll be other lots. Those are already part of the previous subdivision. This is just unique in the fact that we're asking for a variance to utilize the property that's up against the tracks.
Okay.
Okay, anyone else? Your name for the record, please.
Jane Peston. And we just moved into the property in August, and I was well aware of the warehouses. However, upon entering Knoll Street, it shows what the weight limit is there, so I was assured there would not be any issue. And I think, sir, you just said that there will be no trucks entering Noel. However, I think the 4 o'clock meeting is about that, isn't it? No, because what we received was that there was going to be, I thought cars are going to be able to jockey down there.
And staff can confirm both the plat that will be up in 2 hours doesn't have any access, and the annexation agreement for most of this property prohibits it. absolutely no way to get out of this industrial subdivision onto Noel or Bush.
Okay,
And
and
it,
not,
not only in the plat, but by agreement, it's prohibited.
okay, I've seen paperwork that I've looked at, and it has shown a little area, so that was a concern.
So the subdivision is up in 2 hours, and I would suggest you stay
Yeah.
after we
Oh,
talk
that's-
to Jim.
I am.
There is no physical access, either legally permitted or by plat.
Okay,
Yeah.
will they run along the tracks and come in that way at all?
So you can't cross the tracks until you get way further south, and there will never be access into or out of this subdivision. You would have to go to Millsdale, or you would have to go to Route 53 by car only.
And when you say subdivision, you're talking about the warehouse?
The district up to the north, correct?
Okay. Yeah, I am within that 600 feet purple perimeter there. And I just, like I said, we're well aware of the warehouses. So I can't complain. I chose to move into that section, and I come from Homer Glen, where we were basically, we have 355, we have the warehouses, everything kind of came up on us. So we chose to move out to the country, and I'm just hoping that you respect the people that live there, who have chose to live there many years, who might have been their first home. They might have built this home. They chose to raise their kids there, and others are moving out there for a quiet area, and just hoping that you will respect the area. And, you know, a lot of people told me about this, and I expected a great big crowd here to fight this, because I know that North Point and all the other things are a big hot topic. So this is all new to me. I just wanted to you have to say something or you won't be considered. So please take that into consideration. I appreciate your help.
And I would ask that you don't take my word for it. If you want to confirm with Mr. Torrey or Mr. Regis both the agreement and the plat, there is no access.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, if there's no other questions, we'll close it. Come on up, sir. Please state your name for the record.
John Erickson. I live on Walnut Street, just south of here. I just want to know if anything was brought up about the height of the berm, raising the height of that, because I think it's entirely too small, too short. We could probably, and then the fence on top that already blew over within a couple weeks.
So I leave that to staff, obviously, the engineer who's here works with them on the requirements.
Yeah.
And sometimes they don't want too high of a berm. I understand what you're saying, but certainly we could address it with staff.
In the next meeting?
Yeah, but I would suggest though,
Yeah,
that
I
you
would-
would talk to staff about
Yeah.
the complaints so that we could address them.
I would just say it's too short right now. I would say at least 10, 15 feet higher. And then, they put the fence up. I don't know, it's like a 6-foot fence maybe on top of it. And that blew over in a couple weeks, and it's still just laying everywhere, so.
The fence they'll need to repair. Let us know if that ever happens. We will contact the developer. They should put that back up right away.
No, it was
and-
like,
But
I forget when they put.
the
when they
berm, the
put it
berm
up.
height was set by annexation agreement, and it would be something that the developer would have to agree to go higher. We can't force them to go higher than that. Those are what was conditioned with the agreement. So the 60-foot wide berm, though, in reality is double what a normal subdivision would provide. So in this case, it's double some of the other berms that you would see along like Route 53 to the north and so forth. So, and then with the
That's the
fencing
same height
and.
too?
No, they're
The
not
width-
the same height.
So the width
There's
is
a-
40 feet?
There's a 3-to-1 slope that you have to follow, or else erosion and they just don't function.
So if it went
Right.
taller, it'd have to be wider?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but the landscaping, they'll add landscaping on top, and so, given time, that will grow, and evergreen coverage and trees and all that would provide additional buffer, but that will take a little bit of time to establish.
So then I would say just make sure if the fence blows over, you
Yeah.
know, it's still, the sections are all laying down still, so. And that was in like June.
Well, and I'm told that it's being repaired, Jim, if you want to send compliance out.
Okay, no, I mean, I trust you guys. Hopefully you were aware of it and you were working on it, but obviously this is notification if you haven't gotten it already, so.
Thank you.
There's no other questions. We'll close the petition and ask for a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that the development go forward.
Second.
Motion and second to approve. Call the roll.
Mr. McShane?
Aye.
Mr. Noctree?
Aye.
Ms. Rohr?
Aye.
Mr. Bias?
Aye.
Mr. Alessio?
Aye.
Mr. Riggs?
Aye.
So these variations are final for this additional parking, and like what was stated, the subdivision will be at 4 o'clock at our Plan Commission meeting if you're interested in attending that. Moving on, or moving back, I should say, is the applicant here for 2310 Park Ridge Drive? The applicant for Park Ridge Drive, 2310, Rodolfo Juarez Delgado. You're here? Okay, I just wanted to make sure you're here before I read this. Petition number 2023-40, applicant owner is Rodolfo Juarez Delgado. The location is 2310 Park Ridge Drive. The request is a variation. Under purpose, the applicant is requesting a variation to allow a 6-foot tall fence in the corner side yard of their home at 2310 Park Ridge Drive. Per the city's zoning ordinance, a fence within the corner side yard may not exceed 4 feet in height unless the owner is able to obtain the written approval of the adjacent property owner. If they cannot obtain the written approval, the owner may request a variation to allow a fence height larger than 4 feet high in the corner side yard. The Zoning Board of Appeals makes the final decision on this variation request. Under site-specific information, the subject site is located within the Caton Ridge subdivision, the southeast corner of Park Ridge Drive and South Ridge Drive. Lot is around 11,000 square feet and contains a 2-story single-family home. Property is zoned R2 single-family residential. 6148 South Ridge Drive is the property adjacent to the subject site's corner side yard and is the neighbor whose written approval is required to allow a 6-foot fence. 6148 South Ridge Drive is an interior lot, not a corner lot, so its side yard abuts the rear yard of the subject site. Under surrounding zoning, land use, and character, the properties are surrounded by other single-family homes in the Caton Ridge subdivision, all with R2 single-family residential zoning. Under applicable regulations, section 47-17.3, yards required for corner and through lots, and 47-17.6, heights of fences. Also, section 47-19.8, findings of fact supporting a variation, and you could refer to the attachment on that. Under discussion, the approval of the requested variation would allow a 6-foot fence to be installed along the side property line of 2310 Park Ridge Drive along South Ridge Drive. 2310 Park Ridge Drive is a corner lot that fronts Park Ridge Drive and has a side yard along South Ridge Drive. The city's zoning ordinance requires corner lots to have a 20-foot corner side yard that is subject to front yard fence height requirements. Fences in the corner side yard are limited to 4 feet in height unless the owner obtains the approval of adjacent property owner, because the property owner at 6148 South Ridge Drive did not supply written approval of the taller fence. Subject site owner must request a variation to build a 6-foot high fence within the 20-foot corner side yard. The owner would be allowed to build a 4-foot high fence in this location without a variation. Property owners are requesting the 6-foot fence to enclose their yard for privacy, for the safety of their children, and to prevent people from walking through their yard. The fence would not obstruct visibility for streets or driveways as defined in the zoning ordinance section 47-17.64, heights of fences. 2 other lots in the subdivision have a 6-foot fence in the corner side yard, and 1 lot has a 5-foot fence. The rest of the corner lots either have a 4-foot fence or no fence within the corner side yard. The petitioner has obtained homeowners association approval for the fence. Plat of survey is attached. Under conditions, there are none, and that concludes our staff report.
Okay, is petitioner present? Please come up to the podium. I must swear you in. Do you swear the statement to be true? Your name, address?
Rodolfo Juarez Delgado, 2310 Park Ridge.
Do you have any questions for the board or for the staff?
No.
Okay. Is there anyone here in favor or against this petition, please come up. Are you in favor or against?
Mario Soto.
Your names
My name is Olga Padilla.
and addresses?
6148 Southridge Drive.
Okay.
I'm against it because if he wants to put a fence up, the way he's saying, a 6-foot fence, if you could see that angle of the house behind it, I took all that out. I just put a new retaining wall in, trees in. The vision of my house is gonna be blocked, and I feel right when you approach my house, it brings the value down to my house.
Not only that, if you guys can see that window in between the two bushes, well, we don't have the big bushes anymore, but we have small bushes in between. We do have 2 windows, and that's our main living room. The front is the garage, the back is our main living room. So if I'm sitting down in my couch and I'm looking out the window, the fence is gonna be my view now. That's the main focus of the living room in our house.
Okay.
Can I get clarification? Your retaining wall, where did you say that is?
Right there where those bushes were on that wall,
So you built it up with,
No,
well,
it's
maybe
a
like a
small
flower bed type?
retaining- We actually send an email with all the
Pictures.
pictures in there,
Of
but
what
we
we
actually
did.
have them right here.
Oh, I can look at it. That probably got sent out, right, Sonia?
You can bring up the pictures and
Yeah.
pass it down.
Thank you.
It's like landscaping blocks, it looks
Yeah.
like. Yeah, so it's not like a retaining wall where it changed the
Yeah, yeah.
grade or anything.
Here, you work with me. I'm gonna pass it down. So this picture is through your living room, looking out.
Yes. So if I'm in my living room, now it's gonna be completely blocked by a fence, 6-foot fence.
and that view, when we're on our couch, that's
She'll pass it down.
towards the back
Oh,
of the
yeah, I'll
house.
pass it down
pass
to
it
you.
down.
I'm
Sitting on
sorry.
that couch
I'll be
toward the
fast,
back
I
of the house,
promise.
you get that window angle and it hits the street, so you can
That's
see
our
the
main
street.
focus.
Well, it
So
looks nice.
if they,
Thank you.
if instead of a 6-foot fence, if your neighbor put a 5 or a 4, would you still not have that vision
I
blocked?
mean, I would prefer not to because now it's gonna be an awkward situation that if it comes to that point, I would prefer a smaller one because it's completely gonna block our main focus of our living room, and that's the only 2 windows that we have.
I just feel like our house was put in a weird situation because of the way it was built. We're like in the center of a block between a house, and I'm gonna lose all vision.
And now if
You
it
look
goes-
out the right window, you see the house next to you. You look out the left window, you're just gonna see a fence now.
Now if we put a 6-foot wall, now it's gonna block the whole view of the landscape that we created, which is the main focus. I don't know if it's gonna devalue our property. Our main focus is the view is completely blocked. I
Okay,
mean,
but that view is blocked
So you won't see any of
regardless
this.
of the height of the fence. So you
This
really
fence
don't
will
want
come
any
here
fence
now.
at all?
correct.
This is their house.
Yes.
One other question for you. Your backyard is totally surrounded by a fence? And part of that fence is parallel to, but I don't know, 3 or 4 feet apart from their fence?
Yes. Well, the only reason why we put it separate from theirs, it's because there's some, electrical pipes or something
And
that we
there's-
didn't want inside of
And
our
there's sewage
property.
on the back left corner.
Yeah, and we didn't want that inside of our property due to children and family and
That's how they had to
safety
build it.
purposes too.
Jim, can you clarify the amount off the sidewalk that the fence would be?
You know, it's usually right up to the sidewalk is where the property line runs, as you could see here. There might be a few inches in between the sidewalk and the property line, but usually it is right up to the back of the sidewalk. You know, we allow a fence to go. And in this case, they're permitted a 4-foot high fence. So it's just the height that is,
When you approached, or if you approached your homeowners associations, what did they say to you?
They told us it couldn't go, it wasn't supposed to go all the way to the fence, to the sidewalk.
Yeah.
I've been in talks with him, he told me this multiple times. And he told me if I saw work, to call him right away.
that's not the information we have. We haven't, the information we have is the homeowners association signed off on the 6-foot high fence.
Okay.
That's not what we heard from Chris.
Yeah.
Can I ask the petitioner to come back up? Hello. Yes, please. My question is with the homeowners association, what your talks have been with them and what they have said.
Ma'am, you want to state your name and address and speak into the mic?
Yesenia Carrasco, 14721 South 88th Avenue.
Get closer to the mic, please.
Yesenia Carrasco, 14721 South 88th Avenue.
Okay. And can I just verify that this is also what the homeowner is kind of attesting, saying, okay,
So I'm gonna tell you what he told me to, he was compared to.
awesome, thank you.
Okay, so they are talking about a retaining wall that they put in. If you see the bushes, they were put on before. We came to mention that we wanted to put a 6 feet fence. So as soon as they were notified that there was gonna be a fence there, they started putting the retaining wall. And she says that she doesn't wanna look out her window and look at the fence.
Well, let me amend this a little bit, because I don't want it to get, he said, she said.
Yeah.
But can you just tell me when you guys approached the homeowners association, and this is a little bit outside of the norm, what the homeowners association said to you and when they signed off on it?
So they said if the neighbors would be okay with the 6 feet fence, that would be fine with them, and they had no issue with the 6 feet fence because they also have a 6 feet fence on their side. So they want privacy, and we also want privacy, and we have children, and there's multiple people during the day coming through the yard, and we can't be out there without having the kids being there. Because there's people coming in and out of the yard. And when the kids are there, they kind of, they play around, and like she says, they put in a retaining wall. I don't want the kids going over to the yard that's not theirs. They're little kids. They're not like they're 14, 15-year-old kids that they know that they're not supposed to go to the neighbor's yard.
Yeah.
And when she says that she doesn't want to look out her window to the fence, well, we also want privacy, and what would she be looking at? Ours, when we have a get-together, it's kind of uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So that is, why we came up and said if we wanted to do the 6 feet fence for privacy.
Okay. So I just want to clarify, you live in the home, right? Okay,
No,
right.
I'm translating.
Oh, you're translating, okay. Okay, I think all my questions are.
What would you get with a 6 foot fence that you wouldn't get with a 4 foot
So
fence?
the kids are playing with the ball. The kids play with the ball, and they're little kids. They're 3, 4 years old. When they kick the ball, it always goes to the neighbors because the neighbors next to us have a 4 feet fence, and the ball always goes to the neighbor's yard. So we have to go knock on their door and kind of, can we get the ball back? And it kind of gets to the point that, it's kind of annoying kind of having you knock on my door every so often to get the ball. So the 6 feet will give us a little bit more of having the ball in the yard instead of just flying it constantly over the neighbor's yard.
It sounds like you need a 10-foot fence.
No, just 6 feet fence would be more than enough right now because we also need the privacy. It's kind of, they're little kids, we're outside in the yard, we want to have some privacy. Like they have privacy, we also want some privacy.
My question, why are we trying to get it all the way to the sidewalk? This figure 2 says the 6 foot fence is allowed, was that like 20 feet off?
So when we came in, they told us, we marked all the way out to the outside to where the first picture is in the yellow, but they told us we couldn't do it all the way out there. So we came back with the second picture, which would be the yellow, and we were gonna start on permits, but then they gave us the letters to ask our neighbors if we can have the 6 feet fence, which they didn't sign off on. So that's what's kind of confusing right now.
Yeah, and because I was listening, but I was also looking at the paper to try to figure it out. So the purple section is a 6 foot with neighbor approval.
Right.
Or a 4 foot fence.
Right.
But the yellow, they would allow a 6 foot fence brought in for that 15 feet.
Right, so that's when we asked, that's what the homeowners associations approved them, and it was fine. And then the neighbors, they told us we needed to come to their neighbors and ask if they will be okay with the 6 feet. But they said no, because if you look at the second picture, their window would be where the 7.5 says, where the 7.5, so that will be their window, so that would be the 6 feet fence without their,
Without any
approval.
permission from them?
Right.
Yeah, I get it. Okay.
Okay, with a 6-foot fence, if you're having problems in your house and they can't see you, or somebody's giving you, breaking in or something and they can't see you, they might be the people that would save you. 4-foot, they will be your neighbor. Not only that, with a 4-foot fence, both of you could walk away. You wouldn't get what you want, but you would be neighbors.
Right.
I don't
So
under-
that's where, my question would be, here, this is why we came here. Because, they're, stating that they don't wanna allow us to do the 6 feet fence, but here it says that the 6 feet fence, it's allowed on the yellow part, and that will cover the window. So that's where I'm confused.
And Jim, we are voting for a 6-foot fence on either of them? Purple or yellow, or just yellow?
No, just purple.
Just purple, okay.
So, because if it's allowed just on the yellow, I am fine with that. We came here because they couldn't tell us if it was allowed just on the yellow
I see.
or on the purple.
So I feel like I'm in a somewhat unique situation because my subdivision is set up very similar to how your house is. We've got a lot of houses that face this way and then some that, and it does, it puts, you guys in an awkward position and it puts you in an awkward position. I know this because when I'm in my kitchen, I make direct eye contact with my neighbors some mornings. And so I always make sure I got my bathrobe on, my hair done, anytime I go, and it's a big pain. But something that I've seen, which I think might be a compromise for you guys, is I've seen a lot of people within my neighborhood do the 4-foot, but then put these like evergreen trees that do go past even the 6-foot, that, and and so many feet apart, and that actually offers a little bit more privacy and doesn't make you feel as, it gives you extra yardage, right? Because you'd have that extra space.
Right.
And it can be beautiful too. So I don't know if that's something you guys would consider, and it seems like it would be a compromise, but I don't know if have you considered something like that?
So that's why, we're kind of just really confused where, we're coming back to the yellow part.
Okay.
So the yellow part is what they are talking about, that they don't want covered, but that it is approved, and it's approved with the homeowners association
Yeah.
and within, the village, standards of what could be done there.
Yeah.
So out of respect, we came to kind of, ask if, because we don't have to have them sign off on the 6 foot because it's already there, but that's the compromise. So that's why it's kind of asking them, why would it be such a terrible thing to put the 6 feet fence? They have their 6 feet, the other houses surrounded with fence. They have a privacy there because they have a pool, so it's kind of private for them.
I saw that pool,
So I
I'm a little jealous.
want to do the same thing.
Yeah, you look like a fun house with the Miller Lite and the pool. Do you mind if I ask you guys if there's, and I'd actually have you step up to talk in the microphone, but do you mind if I ask you what your thought is on that? If they did do something like a 4-foot with some berming with plants?
The 4-foot?
Can I say something?
Yeah, please.
No, go ahead.
One, you told us not to lie when we got up here.
Yeah.
I didn't start planting these trees and do that wall for them to put up a fence, because the year before last, in the picture, the front of my house, we had the retaining wall done too, so I wanted to do the side of the house.
Yeah.
And the trees that are in the picture were dead, so I took that out.
Yeah.
So I did nothing like that so they wouldn't put up a fence.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Well, it looks beautiful, and so once somebody would pass that sight line of their area, they would see it, so it would still be visible, it would just be in more, and to be honest, any subdivision you're gonna go in is gonna have that, because unless they stagger the houses really deep, right, where like you can see ahead, but they don't do that with subdivisions anymore, right? Every subdivision house is usually in line. So that's what it looks like to me, is that no matter what, if that house is flipped around, you'd still have that problem that they can't really see the side. But I do agree it is beautiful.
And the two windows she was talking about, that if we look out the window, we're looking directly at them. We have a window on the left that is directly to their patio. We open the blind, close the curtain. The window to the right, that you can get an angle to the street, we open the blind and leave the curtain open because we're sitting on the couch from here and we get that angle that way.
So we don't
Or when you're
open,
washing dishes.
we don't open this one directly towards their
To
house.
give them their
To give
privacy.
them their privacy, but we do open the one that you.
But if they
see
had
in the
that
picture.
berming there, you wouldn't even need to do that,
And
right?
exactly, and I mean, no animosity with them, because if I was in their situation, I would probably be here too, fighting
Yeah.
for the same thing. But my thing is, I do want our vision out. So I mean, if it comes down to it, the 4 foot, that's fine, as long as I have my vision to the street. Who wouldn't wanna be sitting in in your living room, looking out the window?
Would you be open to a 6-foot fence if it was not a wooden fence or something that you could actually see through, a metal fence?
It's difficult because that's our main focus of our house.
So no matter what, though, you have I'm sorry to interrupt, but no matter what, you do have a problem with a 6-foot in pushed back, like the one that you would not need approval for, which we can't even vote on here today. So we're not voting on, I just want to verify that with Jim. We're not voting on that today. That's something that they would be able to do through their homeowners association without our say. So we really don't have any compromises that can be offered.
We overruled homeowners associations.
No, I understand that, but they're not here, but we're not here voting on that yellow line today. We're here voting on the purple line today, correct?
Since we can't
Yes,
exceed
that,
more than 4 feet.
they could do the 6-foot fence at that 20-foot building setback line. It's extending a 6-foot fence past that 20-foot building setback line that they need either a neighbor sign off, which they couldn't get, or they need to come to the zoning board and get a variance to get it approved.
But they don't need approval from us to do that yellow line right there. So that is something they can do no matter what.
Yes.
The only way that we are playing any role in this today is if they do a 6-foot extended to the curb.
Sidewalk.
Sidewalk,
Back of
sorry.
the sidewalk.
So I think there's actually more consensus here than maybe what we're getting at, because you guys don't, I mean, no matter what, they can do whatever they want at that yellow, right? So we don't have a say on that. But I think I'm hearing that they're willing to compromise and do a 4-foot extended with berming. Are you guys still wanting a 6-foot in? Yeah, I mean, let's have a party.
Your name and address also?
Yeah, Guadalupe Juarez. I live right with my brother. He's my brother, Rodolfo, 2310 Park Ridge. We want to do the 6 foot on the purple line because we also want to put a pool. So we want all the space that is left. Because as you can see, the yellow line, we're going to lose a lot of space. So we want to use that space to put a pool on our yard. So that's why we want the 6 foot and the purple line.
Okay.
So I know, I'm sorry guys, but
It's okay, I mean, we're here for the same thing.
We all get along, you just go to their pool.
we have a lot of,
No, I know I'm in the wrong subdivision now.
yeah, and I have a son, he's 4.
Yeah.
So that's sort of what we want to do, put a fence up to the purple line and then put a pool on it. So that's what we want to do, the purple line, not just the yellow line. And I don't know if we need a 6 feet for a pool, but that's my preference, because, you know, neighbors.
Yeah, no, I understand. That clarifies it.
Yeah.
Okay, if there's no other questions, we'll go ahead and close it and ask for a board for a vote.
Can I make a motion?
You can.
And I want to make the motion because I also want to make this a suggestion within that. I want to make a motion for denying the 6 foot. However, I would like to say that I think that you very much could still do a 4 foot with some appropriate landscaping to negate and fix that privacy issue, and you would still get all that room. And it sounds to me like that would be a better option. And I don't like the idea of a 6 foot going on, because I actually have a 6 foot in my backyard because I back up to a busy road. And, number one, my fence has gotten kicked in multiple times, you know, and when people are walking by, I mean, it is an obstruction. It is like, I don't think you realize how much it is an obstruction until you walk on a road that has a 6 foot right up against the pavement. And I do think visually for a neighborhood, it's very,
Unfriendly.
yeah, it's unfriendly. It's very, intrusive, even, you know, when you're walking a dog or whatever. So I want to make a motion for deny, and I highly suggest doing maybe a 4 foot with some berm that go, or berm, you know, some bushes or something that go above that can block and give you that privacy that you want, and also not be intrusive, onto your, you know, onto your neighbors.
Okay, we have a motion to deny. Is there anyone to second?
I would second it.
Motion and a second to deny. Call the roll.
Mr. Lucio?
Aye.
Mr. McShane?
Aye.
Mr. Noctre?
Aye.
Ms. Rohr?
Aye.
Mr. Bias?
Motion is to deny.
I want them to have it, what she said.
So then you say no. Yeah, the motion is to deny, so you would say no.
No, yeah, no. No.
Mr. Riggs?
No.
4-2 in favor to deny the request. So that's final here. You know, if you want options, work with your planner, Helen Miller. You can go with the 6 foot fence to the 20 foot building setback line, drop it down to 4. And like Ms. Rohr said, you could put some tall shrubs in there to help block visibility from people looking in or balls going out. So that's an option to you. You could drop it to 4 in that 20 foot building setback line. So, you know, work with Helen over here. She could help you with that if you have questions on that. That would be your next option.
How high a bush can go?
No, there's not a height prohibit, because you're not creating a visibility problem with an adjacent driveway or anything like that. So that you could go as high as you want with bushes. Okay?
Good luck.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I wish you knew me with that pool.
Is the applicant for 1101 North Broadway Street here? I'll kick that to the back. We'll bring it up at the end. We got one more
We
request.
have a lady here that's for that. What are you here for, ma'am?
She's opposed to it, so we don't have an applicant for it. We're not gonna call it until we know for sure that they're not here, but I'm gonna move on through the agenda. So 2023-64 is the next application, the next petition number. The applicant owner is Silver Cross Hospital. The developer is Volunteers of America, VOA, Illinois. Location is 1301 Copperfield Avenue. The request is a special use permit. Purpose, the petitioner is requesting a special use permit to allow a supportive living facility for women recovering from addiction, especially opioid addiction. For the City of Joliet zoning ordinance, supportive living facilities may be allowed as special uses within the RB restricted business zoning district by the mayor and city council. Criteria for granting a special use permit for a sheltered care home in the RB district is listed in section 47-15B3. Under site-specific information, the proposed site comprises 2.1 acres located on the former Silver Cross Hospital campus on the north side of Copperfield Avenue, west of North Hebbard Street. Site is accessed from Copperfield Avenue, which terminates at the west end of the site. Hope Manor Joliet, a supportive housing development serving veterans and their families, is located across the street from the site and is owned and managed by VOA Illinois. Other uses on the former hospital campus include the Department of Veteran Affairs, Joliet Outpatient Clinic at 1201 Eagle Street, and Aunt Martha's Joliet Community Health Center at 1200 Eagle Street. The petitioner previously applied for a special use permit for a women's opioid addiction supportive living facility, which was heard by the Zoning Board of Appeals in September of 2021. The zoning board voted to recommend approval of the petition at their September 16th, 2021 meeting. Petition was tabled at the January 18th, 2022 city council meeting and then withdrawn after that. Under surrounding zoning, land use, and character, the site is surrounded on the west, north, and east by vacant land that was also part of the former Silver Cross campus. To the south is the former office building owned by Will County. Hope Manor Joliet is also located on the south of the site on Copperfield Avenue. All adjacent surrounding properties are zoned RB Restricted Business District. Under applicable regulations, Section 47-15B, sheltered care homes. Under discussion, VOA Illinois, the local affiliate of the National Service Organization Volunteers of America, has submitted a proposal for a multifamily supportive living facility for women recovering from addiction, especially opioid addiction. Project called Hope Manor Village Joliet is a 48-unit housing development consisting of 1 and 2 bedroom units located on the former Silver Cross Hospital campus. The entire design of the development will be recovery-based, gender responsive, and trauma-informed to best serve the future residents. Development would serve individual women and women with their children and offer supportive services such as counseling, recovery groups, and children's programming. Residents would also have access to the physical and service amenities offered at Hope Manor Village, such as a business and technology resource center, a children's learning center, adult learning classrooms, family group programs. VOA Illinois will serve as the property manager and will also be the service provider for Hope Manor Village Joliet. Approval of a future plan unit development is required for this multifamily proposal. Conceptual site plan shows 2 3-story buildings with 24 dwelling units each, consisting of 2 1-bedroom units and 22 2-bedroom units. Building B would also have a 1-story common area with offices and meeting and activity rooms. 2 parking areas are proposed that include a total of 48 parking spaces with 6 additional land bank spaces that could be added if needed. The grounds include outdoor space and a playground area. The building elevations show face brick and fiber cement board, hardy board as the main exterior materials. Plata survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations are attached, as well as a proposal information sheet. The supportive multifamily proposal for women with addictions and their children should not create any negative impacts to the surrounding mixed-use area. Vehicular traffic created by this proposal will be kept to a minimum. The RB zoning that is site currently has is acceptable for this type of use and is compatible with the surrounding area. Future PUD will address the final site plan, building architecture and material, and site landscaping that will be allowed. Under conditions, if the zoning board desires to approve the special use permit, the following conditions would be included. 1, that off-street parking remains in the future as proposed, and should the property be declared a public nuisance, it shall be subject to a rehearing and a possible revocation of the special use permit. And that concludes our staff report.
Is petitioner present? And come up, I need to swear you in. Your name and addresses in front of the mic, please. You swear to give the truth statement, it's all true? Go ahead.
I do. Mike Jerabek, 401 West Superior, Chicago, Illinois.
Go ahead, the rest.
Nancy Hughes Moyer, 6606 North Lolita Avenue, Chicago, Illinois.
Marco Murillo, 229 East Mandel Avenue, North Lake, Illinois.
Scott Paddock, Silver Cross Hospital, 1900 Silver Cross Boulevard, New Lenox, Illinois.
Do you have any questions for the board? Or the staff?
What's your relationship to the project?
So my name is Nancy Hughes Moyer, and I am the president and CEO for VOA Illinois. We are responsible for building Hope Manor Joliet, which is the 67-unit campus that is just sort of immediately, I guess we call it south of our proposed development here. It was always our intent when we had the opportunity to develop this relationship with Silver Cross to do more on the campus over time. And obviously, we wanted to be very intentional about what we would do after Hope Manor Joliet in terms of what were the most pressing emerging needs. And so, it was really during COVID and following COVID, and also seeing the effect that COVID had on the people that we were already serving relative to relapse and addiction, that we knew we wanted to bring housing solutions to people, particularly women with children, who are really struggling with addiction. Addiction is something that has been with us for a really long time. COVID really exacerbated it, but now with the crisis of opioid addiction combined with the prevalence of fentanyl, the likelihood of a fatal overdose connected to addiction is significantly higher. And so we wanted to be really responsive to helping women who are in recovery really hold on and be successful in that recovery, because that's not only important to them as individuals and as women, but we are really targeting women with children. Our goal here is to make sure that kids can be raised by their moms. And the single biggest risk to women being able to raise their children is most often a struggle with addiction. And the single biggest predictor of whether or not a woman will relapse is whether or not she has access to safe and supportive housing that will really assist her in stabilizing her recovery at the time that she exits inpatient treatment. And so that's really our point of intersect, is to really capture and catch women who are successfully coming out of either inpatient treatment or intensive outpatient treatment, and to make sure that they have a very supportive environment to raise their children and to take care of their children while they're in those early stages of recovery, because that's when they're most vulnerable to relapse. And again, if they don't have housing that supports their recovery, most often they find themselves, out of somewhat initially desperation, sort of resorting back to most often the people that got them into some trouble in the first place. And so we're really trying to break that cycle and to make sure that we're really helping position them for long-term success in their recovery. This is not a medical facility. We are not providing the inpatient treatment. There are a number of resources out there to do that. Our goal is to step in with what research is telling everyone who's doing treatment with women, is that it's when they leave those treatment facilities that they're really at risk. There's not a lot of longer term resources to support women in recovery, particularly those who have children. And so we're trying to create that resource. This is not the only time we hope to do this. Obviously, over time, we hope to be able to do more of this, but our presence already on that campus positions us to do it really well here on this campus and in Joliet. And the data is clear that we are not having to go anywhere to find women that need this resource. The fatal and non-fatal overdose data for Will County is clear that there is an issue and a challenge here. And so we want to be able to meet that need where one of the places we know it exists.
How do you get your clients?
We will primarily be partnering with the Will County Problem Solving Court. We have a really strong relationship with the Will County State's Attorney's Office. They've been incredibly supportive of this project. Their only complaint is they want us to make it bigger. We have a very sort of specific reason for maintaining the density at the level that it's at, but we did go up a few more units because they are concerned that we will meet the need within a couple months, and then we'll have a very long waiting list. So we said we could go a little bit bigger, and we did from our last application. But we expect that is where we're going to see most of our referrals, is from the Will County Problem Solving Court, as well as from inpatient providers and outpatient providers within Will County, as well as families from the Joliet Field Office of the Department of Children and Family Services. So we know our goal is to try and, again, families who may become at risk for entering the child welfare system because of addiction, that we can potentially interrupt that.
What's your predictive, what is your success rate?
Well, it depends on our success rate with what. We serve a number of different populations.
People that reoccur, that leave clear, or people that fail the system?
So the national data for women.
I thought you said you were already in this.
No, we serve a number of people with addiction. And so in terms of our success in preventing people from relapsing, it's about 75%. People who have stable, supportive housing, who struggle with addiction. There is about 25% that will relapse at some point. But the data is pretty clear that about 75% will likely stay in recovery when they have housing and support that really helps them stay with their recovery.
Those that relapse, give me a few minutes. Those that relapse, do they have any time during that process where they can make it contentious for the people that are trying, that's next door? I mean, do you have a system in place that you make certain that you move them out any time that, you know, that in an orderly fashion? I mean, they're already sick when they're coming in, you know, taking these things. And I guess it's probably a process getting them to a point to where they can leave not addicted. During that process, can you keep them up, say, a certain percentage of them that be, that's not going to be cured? And how do you keep them apart from the other people that's trying to get through the process?
So it's really our program model and our community rules. And so this is not at all really different than what we're doing in any of our other supportive housing facilities, including the one that's right across the street. The biggest difference that would really exist between what we are proposing here and what already exists across the street is that this is really going to be specific in targeting women, female-headed households. Across the street, we have both female and male-headed households, but a significant percentage of the people that we're serving, while they're also veteran-head households, are usually struggling with some history of addiction. And so this is not a phenomena that will be new to us. We know that this is a challenge that we are facing and addressing in all of our housing facilities. And so we utilize all of the same strategies. We focus heavily on having a really well-staffed building, as well as having security 24/7. We have very intentional and comprehensive community rules, and we have on-site services. And the combination of all of those things makes sure that when problems emerge, and I will not tell you that we never have problems, you wouldn't need us ever, human services, if there was never problems, but we know how to respond to them quickly and proactively and contain them. I will not say that we've never had an issue at Hope Manor Joliet, but we are certainly a resource and a positive contributor to the community. We are not a nuisance or a detractor. We are really good neighbors wherever we exist. And ironically, it was never my intent, but when we set out, but we are actually, as it turns out, in almost every facility we have, we are right next to an elementary school. And, you know, because we have that much confidence in the caliber of what we're doing and our ability to really be a good neighbor.
How are you funded?
There's a capital stack for the actual construction and development of the building. And that's through a variety of sources that largely come from the Illinois Housing Development Authority and through an instrument called Low-Income Housing Tax Credit, as well as permanent supportive housing funds, Federal Home Loan Bank, the Home Depot Foundation. We actually think we'll be able to access some funds, believe it or not, from the opioid settlement funds, because these are the kinds of resources that those settlement funds were supposed to address. In terms of our services, it's through a variety of grants that we receive, as well as Medicaid funding and some other things to actually provide the on-site services.
Thank you.
And isn't it true that your mothers stay with the program mainly because they have the kids with them versus kids being separated from the mother?
As I said, the whole value proposition for what we're trying to do here is to make sure that moms can raise their kids. And so yes, part of their cooperation is to make sure that either because of law enforcement involvement that could result if they're not cooperative, or potentially because of DCFS, yes, being able to have their children reside with them and to be, provided services as well, because our services are very sort of family focused and intergenerational for both the parents and the kids. It's a great incentive for them, to really stay well, because they want to continue to be able to parent their children.
I have a couple questions. So obviously man, woman, doesn't matter. Addiction is addiction. You're gonna struggle with it your whole life. It's, you know, we're now at a point where it's a disease, right? So what are we talking about for minimum, maximum time that somebody will be with you? And what do the community guidelines say about workforce? Are they going out to working? Because obviously this is gonna be a subsidized problem with HUD, I'm imagining, right? So they're paying, it's a subsidy program of some sort, like a voucher program, I'm imagining. So my question is, how long are these mothers families all going to be staying? Theoretically, maybe the average and the maximum time, if you can give me an idea, and then give me an idea of what these, you know, mothers or children with them, are they gonna be working, or what's the situation?
So let me first give you a comparison for Hope Manor Joliet, which is right across the street. So that's 67 units that we have there, and it is really a cross-section of the community in that we have two-parent family households, we have single-parent households, we have, you know, relatively young families, we have families where, you know, some of the kids are actually 18, 19, 20, and then we have single adults, both males and females, who are in their 60s, 70s, sometimes older, and have, you know, in many cases, very chronic health issues. And so generally speaking, most of our younger residents are with us on average 12 to 36 months.
Oh, okay.
Our older residents actually tend to be with us for quite a bit longer. Sadly, many of them were the last people actually to take care of them, has been the case. Most of them have been with us, our older residents, really since the place opened, and we expect we're probably the last folks
So
to
you're
care for
saying
them.
you have some residents that end up being very long-term residents, and you have some residents that are using it as a transitional period?
Correct, and it is by design that this will likely be serving a much younger population, like that portion of Hope Manor Joliet. And so we expect that the typical length of stay is 12 to 36 months. This is considered what's called permanent supportive housing. The term permanent does not mean forever. It's not like a Supreme Court justice, right? It means that they have a lease. And so it means that they have some of the legal protections of a lease. So it's not transitional housing. It's not a shelter in the sense that it's not transient, but it's not permanent. It's not forever. It is still predicated on their cooperation. And our lease includes provisions in terms of cooperation with the community rules and the program model of the building, but it doesn't connect to arbitrary timelines either. So we have the ability to really customize a service plan for them that can really meet their needs. But with all of our developments, one of the outcomes that we focus on is not only self-sufficiency in the very sort of literal sense of the word, but on long-term economic stability and self-sufficiency too. So we do work with our residents. You know, we have employment programs and job coaching and things like that, because we don't want people to stay with a level of support that they don't need forever.
Yeah.
That's ultimately not constructive. So the idea is, how do we help them increase their level of self-sufficiency over time? And the way that our rental support is structured is that it's very elastic, right? So as their level of income grows, which is the goal, they actually draw less rental support over time.
Got it. Out of curiosity, let's see, there's 48 units, and let's say the average person has 2, maybe even 3 kids, or all 2 bedrooms. Has the regional offices of education or the school district, is there any sort of feedback that they have about offering services to, is that a problem, reaching out to this location?
So again, we have a Hope Manor Joliet actually would have theoretically more kids, more likely, because we have 3-bedroom units as well at Hope Manor Joliet. And if I'm understanding your question correctly, it hasn't sort of created an undue burden on the school. We actually suspect that most of the children at this development will probably not even be quite school age. I mean, we're probably talking more likely infants and sort of toddlers and preschool age. One of the reasons we have some 1-bedrooms is we actually anticipate we'll probably have some pregnant women who actually don't need a 2-bedroom until, you know, the child is a little bit older, or potentially there's more than one. So we don't really expect that there will be really a palpable impact in terms of the local schools, but we'll, certainly we focus and really tailor our programming based on, the ages and the needs of the families within a particular development. And it changes a little bit over time. And so we have the ability to bring in, for instance, more programming for school-age kids when we know we're sort of meeting a critical mass in terms of school-age kids. We'll shift it a bit if we know that more of the kids are actually, again, babies and toddlers. And so we focus much more on sort of maternal health issues and how to take care of small children. We don't really anticipate teenagers, but we'll have the ability to address some of those issues if we do have a few of those kids, particularly since we have that across the street. And so there's some ability to sort of stretch our services between the two places to be able to be very flexible depending on, what the actual profile is of families.
And my very last question, I promise. My very last question is it mandated within your community guidelines that they are supposed to be looking for work or participating in these, maybe work programs to get them into the workforce?
Absolutely. So there's going to be a service plan for every single resident that again, we set the goals with them, but the goal is not to be there forever. And so we will have goals that sort of talks about, how do you move past this over time? And, again, we, in some of our locations, we do have people that are older and have significant health issues. We're not focusing on trying to get those folks jobs, right? So their service plan looks very different. But we really create a profound sense of community, not just for the people you're sharing this place and space with now, but for the people that will need this support after. And we really focus on that we want you to get well, not just for you, but so that somebody coming behind you has the ability to access this resource so that they can get well too. So, and we have people that come back to our facilities then and actually become a source of support. They become peer support specialists, or they will help lead groups or do things like that because they have really bought into sort of the ethos of our sense of community about giving back and being a part of not just what you're involved in at that moment, but making sure that you're a good steward of what needs to come after you.
Got it. Thank you.
I go to the vet center. I'm a Vietnam vet. I go there for some time, and every once in a while I'll just drive around the unit there. I've been a landlord for 36, 37 years. I never see anything that's out of sort. It's always clean. Never see anybody out doing it. I don't know what happened in the evenings, but during the daytime.
Well, I'd love to tell you nothing ever happens. I mean, again, we have our share of challenges every once in a while, but we really focus on, again, creating a sense of accountability to yourself and to your neighbors, and creating a real sense of ownership, not just, that it's only our responsibility, but yours as well. And we also focus on something that we call trauma-informed design. And what that means is that we have an obligation to create a facility that tells people that they're really important and they really have value. And when we really take care of the facility, they will generally step up and do their part to make sure that that's happening as well. And so that's really part of our brand promise. And I think one of the things that sets us apart as a human service provider is we take the physical environment in which we're doing everything that we do incredibly seriously. And it really does contribute to the therapeutic process, I think, in a pretty meaningful way.
One last question for those who get out of sort or that you need the police. I guess you have that system or in place.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I want to make sure I give Scott an opportunity to speak as well. I know he wanted to say a few words.
Good afternoon. Thank you again. Scott Paddock from Silver Cross Hospital. I'm simply here to lend our support to the project. When you look at our former campus and how that has been redeveloped and repurposed, I think it's a tremendous story, a very inspirational story. The Veterans Clinic, thank you for your service, by the way. The Veterans Housing that Nancy's group is a part of. So we have a history with Nancy and her team and Volunteers of America. We're very proud of our affiliation, and we couldn't be more pleased to provide the land and the acreage for this much needed and worthwhile project. So just want to make sure that I represented our 3,000 employees at Silver Cross and let you know that we're 100% behind this project. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, if there's no other questions for the board, is there anyone in favor to speak? Is there anyone opposed? And seeing none, we'll close the petition and ask for a vote.
I move we
Motion.
approve.
Second.
Motion second and approved. Call the roll.
Mr. McShane?
Aye.
Mr. Noctre?
Aye.
Ms. Rohr?
Aye.
Mr. Bias?
Aye.
Mr. Alessio?
Aye.
Mr. Riggs?
Aye.
So that will go to the city council second meeting in November 2021 with recommendation for approval.
If you approve by the council, how long will it be before you start construction?
It's always the $6 million question. I would really hope that we have more than shovels in the ground by this time next year.
He wants an apartment.
Well, you're welcome to home Angela anytime. And thank you for your service, by the way.
You're welcome, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you all so much.
Thank you for what you do.
I'll call 2023-63 Alejandra and Abraham Garcia. Are you here to represent your petition, or anybody representing 1101 North Broadway Street? We see no petitioner here, so my recommendation would be to table this to the November Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. We're recommending denial of that, so a petitioner should be here to represent that, represent themselves in regards to that, so.
I make a motion to table.
Second.
So it will be tabled to the November 16th meeting.
I make a motion to table to the November 16th meeting.
Thank you, Ms. Rohr.
And call
Mr.
the roll.
Bias?
Mr. Bias seconds it.
Mr. Bias?
Yes. Present.
Mr. Alessio?
Aye.
Mr. McShane?
Aye.
Mr. Noctre?
Aye.
Ms. Rohr?
Aye.
Mr. Riggs?
Aye.
So let's see, moving on through the agenda, old, new business, not for final action or recommendation, we have none. Then public comments, anyone wanting to speak on non-agenda items can speak for a maximum of 4 minutes if they wish. Does anybody in the audience would like to speak on a non-agenda item? Seeing none, next would be adjournment.
Motion, we need a motion to adjourn, second?
Second. Or did you
Who's
do
doing it? No, who's doing the
Motion
motion?
to adjourn, Bridget. Second, Mr. Noctre. There we go.
Mr. Alessio?
Aye.
Mr. McShane?
Aye.
Mr. Noctre?
Aye.
Ms. Rohr?
Aye.
Mr. Bias? Mr. Riggs?
Aye.
Aye for an aye.